After a slightly longer than intended break, we are back in Johto. This is our 31st challenge run together in the Johto region, and we are running Donphan. Donphan's one of my all-time favourite Pokemon from Generation 2, and I was delighted to see it get some love in Scarlet and Violet, but let's see how well it does in its home region. As always, I used the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to replace one of our starters with Phanpy this time, and I decided on replacing Totodile. I had a choice of either Cyndaquil or Totodile, but Razorleaf's critical hit chance with Chikorita just swung it in the favour of replacing Totodile. And just before we get into the challenge run, I'd like to thank you all so much for your patience during my break. I've had an awful lot of stuff go on at the start of this year and the end of last year, not a lot of it pleasant, but I am back and raring to go with yet more challenge runs. So if you aren't subscribed, or you did unsubscribe in my break, please do consider clicking that button once more, it really will help me out. But now that we've got the Donphan, we can get on with the challenge run. We get a potion from Professor Elm's aid, and we are on our way. As always, I'll show you the very first battle we encounter, and it's a level 2 Rattata. Ends up being a 3 shots because our stats as a Phanpy aren't great, but we don't have to wait far too long at all to evolve into Donphan. Here in Mr. Pokemon's house, we get to the Pokedex from Professor Oak, and we can make our way back towards New Bark Town, where we are going to be embarking on our challenge. Just to the east of Cherry Grove City, we bump into the rival, and as I stated earlier, the rival has Chikorita. It really was a toss-up, but Chikorita seems to be the better of the two options to make it harder for me. And being a physical attacker against Chikorita's bulk, it really was a war of attrition. A war we won and grew up to level 7, and we can move on back towards Professor Elm's laboratory, where the policeman is waiting for us. We tell the policeman that the rival's name is triple question mark. We get some Pokeballs from Professor Elm's aid, and we can start moving onwards and upwards. Our first destination is Violet City, but before we enter there, we encounter Bugcatcher Wade. He has a bunch of Caterpie and a Weedle thrown in for good measure, and we grow to level 9 off this battle. At level 9, we learn one of the most important moves of the run, Defense Curl. We are going to be combining that with Rollout a little bit later on to create some huge damage against some of the harder opponents, but for now we've just got to get past the Caterpie, and we did get poisoned in that battle. However, that isn't the biggest issue at all, and we can move on into Falconer's gym. Of course, Falconer is our first gym leader. He's a flying type specialist just like his big brother Lance, and he leads with Pidgey. We start tackling against the Pidgey, and then I decide to start buffing my defense. Defense Curl is going to come in very handy against the Pidgeotto, and this Pidgey is not dealing much damage at all. So after using 6 defense curls, we then get back onto tackling. We knock out the Pidgey. Out comes the Pidgeotto. Gust is doing very little damage. The Berry heals us up as well, and then we just need to keep on tackling. Eventually we take it down into the red as he gets a critical hit, but it's nowhere near enough to knock us out. We grow to level 11 and we get the Zephyr badge. Time of 9 minutes and 15 seconds for our first badge. Let's now move on towards Azalea Town, and before we enter Azalea Town proper, we're going to teach Mud Slap to our Phanpy. With it being a stab move, it's not quite as bad as it often is, and here in the Ilex Forest we're going to catch our HM friends. It's a very welcome return to Paris. Paris is going to be helping us out with Dig, Flash, Cut and Sweet Scent. And the second HM friend we have to catch is of course Psyduck. Psyduck is going to be helping out with Surf, Strength, Whirlpool and Waterfall. So it's very nice to have both the HM friends from the Ilex Forest back once again. We just need to tackle this down a couple of times to get it into the red, chuck a great ball, and the HM friends are safely tucked away for another run. With that, we can move back into Azalea Town and have a little chat with Kurtz, who's telling us about the shenanigans going on in the Slowpoke Well. We deal with Team Rocket, we replace Growl with Flail, and now it's time to take on our second gym leader. This is Bugsy, the Bug-type specialist who leads with Metapod. Now I've purposely gone in with quite low HP in this battle because I want to take advantage of Flail. Flail does more damage the lower your HP is, so we get through the first 2 Pokemon in 2 shots each, and here comes the Scyther. Furycutter takes time to build up, that takes us down to 5 HP, and we can 2-shot the Scyther and get the Hive badge in a time of 19 minutes and 58 seconds. Up next is the second rival battle, and I thought maybe I could use the Flail strategy once more. Obviously at just 8 HP that's not going to be the best, so I decided to use a berry just to see how well it would go. And honestly, this might be the biggest misplay of the run. I vastly underestimated his team at this point in the game, forgetting that this rival battle is one of the trickiest. We get through the Ghastly easy enough, however Razorleaf just one-shots us, so we'll try at full health this time. We know we can get through the Ghastly with just 2 Mud Slaps, and we're back onto the Bayleaf. We Mud Slap to try and reduce its accuracy, but Razorleaf still hits for a critical hit. One more critical hit and we are out of there, but Razorleaf just hits for normal damage, and that brings us back into Flail range. The Reflect fades, Flail hits for huge damage, and we knock out the Bayleaf, and we do exactly the same against the Zubat. That is Rival 2 done and dusted in just 3 resets, and that means we can move on towards Goldenrod City. But before we enter the city proper, we've got a couple of bits to do in the forest. We pick up cuts from the charcoal maker, and we also pick up headbutts from the green-haired man staring at a tree. Headbutt is going straight on our learn set as well. That is going to replace tackle. Tackle is only base 35 power with 95 accuracy, whereas headbutt is base 70 power with 100% accuracy. I will take the 20 PP drop any day of the week. And once we get into Goldenrod City, we get the bike so we can move even quicker. And now it's time to go into the underground. In the underground, we pick up the coin case, and we also get a haircut for our Phampi. Phampi looks incredibly happy with the haircut, and with that we can go into the game corner, buy 100 coins and pick up our 3rd HM friend. Technically this one's just a field move friend, it is Abra, and now it's time for the return of my favourite HM friend. It's time to say hello to Kenya once more. Kenya's going to be helping us out with Fly. Now we're in the National Park, we will pick up the Quick Claw from the teacher on the bench, we'll pick up Dig from the north of the National Park, and we'll have a little chat with Floria, who gives us a Squirts bottle. And finally, just before we take on Whitney, we'll pick up the Rollouts TM and we'll teach that a little bit later. But for now, we've got Whitney to deal with. She is a normal type specialist, and she leads with Clefairy. Clefairy mimics our defense curl, which could be a little bit scary. However, it doesn't really use it that often, so we just start headbutting the Clefairy and knock it out in 3 shots, and we're on to the Miltank. Miltank scared me a little bit, but Rollout of course is resisted by our ground typing, so she's locked into it and not doing much damage at all. We got very lucky there that she chose Rollout instead of Stomp, and we get the badge in a time of 28 minutes and 27 seconds. We get the Attract TM as well, but we're not going to use it, and now we can start thinking about heading north. We've got to pick up the Squirts bottle from the Eavesdropping Lady in the flower shop before we get to Ecruteak City though, and we're also going to take on Sudowoodo. We're not going to knock it out though, we just run away from it. We get the Rock Smash TM just in case we need it, and now it's time to enter into the Dance Theatre. We don't get any hassle at all from any of the 5 evolutions, and that means we can have a little chat with the bloke at the very front of the stage, and he is going to give us our next HM. This one's Surf, and unfortunately for us, Phampi can't learn it, so we're going to have to give it to our Psyduck instead. And now that we've got Surf, we can start heading east towards Mount Mortar. In Mount Mortar, we have one of my favourite trainers to go up against at this point in the game. Pokemaniac Miller has 2 fully evolved Pokemon in Nidoking and Nidoqueen, but they're still very low level, and that means we get an awful lot of experience from them, but they can't hit that hard at all. So we knock out the Nidoking and get the option to learn Takedown. We decline it because it's a recoil move, and out comes Nidoqueen. We flail against the Nidoqueen instead of headbutting, and just a couple of headbutts later we knock it out. And at level 25, our Phampi is going to be evolving into Donphan. Donphan is the Pokemon we're going to be running with for the rest of this run, and we get the option to learn Fury Attack. We decline because it's not that good of a move at all, and then we can get out of Mount Mortar and head north towards the Lake of Rage. While we're here, we might as well pick up the Rare Candy, and we're going to pick up Hidden Power. I don't believe we're going to use Hidden Power at all in this run though, which is a nice change of pace, but it's still good to have it just in case we need it in an emergency. We teleport back to Ecruteak City and we pick up the Minceberry outside of the Moo Moo Farm, and with all that done and dusted we are ready to take on the next rival battle. We have a little chat with Yusin first. He tells us all about Suicune, but we don't care about Suicune, we just care about taking out this rival. His Haunter swears at us, but we knock it out in 1 Mud Slap, and out comes the Bayleaf. I misplayed here and used Flail by accident, and that was really a bad decision. We're down to 20 HP as the Zubat comes out. We flail against it though and knock it out, and here comes Magnemite. Thank goodness Magnemite is 4 times weak to our Mud Slap, because that means it's effectively base 120 power, and we got away with that even with the misplay against the Bayleaf. And with that rival taken care of, we can go straight to Morty. He's the ghost type leader of our 4th gym together, and he leads with Ghastly. Unfortunately for us, the only move we've got to deal with any of these ghost types is Mud Slap, and if we were playing in Generation 3 or later, this would be a practically impossible battle. You can see the Mint Berry come in handy there against the Gengar, and we're at full health for the Haunter. A couple of Mud Slaps later, we knock it out, and we only take 23 HP of damage in that entire battle. Fog Badge in hand in a time of 36 minutes and 53 seconds. Let's move on towards Olivine City, and the first thing we're going to do is pick up Strength. Strength is going to be taught to Psyduck along with Surf at this point in the game, and we can ascend the Lighthouse. Here at the top of the Lighthouse we meet Jasmine, and she wants us to pick up a suspicious package from Cyanwood, so we will oblige because we want to battle her later, and we'll pick up the rare candy just before digging out. Now we can sail across the open water and end up in Cyanwood City, where we'll get the secret potion from the Drug Man. While we're here, we might as well take on the gym, and the first gym trainer I'm going to battle is Black Belt's Lung. Now Black Belt Lung is going to help us grow to level 33, and at level 33 we learn one of the most important moves in this entire run. We learn Rollout. It might not be a stab move, but combined with Defense Curl we can deal great damage with that later on. And after taking care of his Primate, we do eventually grow to level 33, and we'll replace Flail with Rollout. Flail has served its purpose, but I think Rollout is going to be more beneficial going forward. And now it's time to take on Chuck, our 5th gym leader together. He is a fighting specialist who leads with Primeape. Primeape uses Rage and deals a very little amount of damage, and we're on to the Poliwrath. Poliwrath surfs us, of course, because we are a ground type. We make it flinch on the second turn though, and we knock it out without any resets at all. TMO1 goes in our back, but our Phanpy doesn't have hands, so we're not going to be using Dynamic Punch in this run. Instead, we'll have a little chat with Chuck's wife, we'll get Fly from her, and we'll fly to the Lake of Rage. At the Lake of Rage, we meet an old friend of ours. It's the Red Gyarados. He's a very, very angry Gyarados, so we're going to headbutt it a couple of times to knock it out, and hopefully that will calm it down, at least for a little bit. We'll get the Red Scale, and now it's time to say a warm welcome back to the Liar with the Flyers. It's Lance time. Nothing of great importance happened in the Mahogany Hideout, so we'll go straight to the end of the Rocket Hideout, where we get our next HM. This one's Whirlpool, and that will be helping us out a little bit later on. But with Team Rocket all done and dusted, we can take on Price. He is an Ice-type specialist, and that is a type we are very weak to. Seal's Icy Wind, though, does barely anything at all, and we are still in the green as we go on to the Dugong. Dugong flinches, and it's a 2-shot, and we're on 118 HP for the Piloswine. Piloswine flinches on the first turn, but we get a bad damage roll on the second turn, and we also get frozen. That means that Piloswine heals up and knocks us out with another Blizzard. Let's try again and hope we don't get frozen. Seal goes down in 1 shot this time, and it's a 2-shot on the Dugong with an Aurora Beam hitting us for quite a bit of damage, but our attack didn't get dropped, and that means we can have a much better time against the Piloswine. He uses Fury Attack instead of Blizzard on the first turn, he flinches, he misses Blizzard, and that's enough for us to knock it out. Price's badge, the Glacier badge, in hand in a time of 48 minutes and 30 seconds, and while we're on a roll we might as well take on Jasmine. Jasmine is a Steel-type specialist, and that's great for us because we have the upper hand. We take care of both Magnemites in 1 shot apiece, and now it's time for the Steelix. Steelix can hit like a ton of bricks, so we just have to make sure we lower its accuracy as much as possible. I really do think that Steelix is one of the most difficult Pokemon you come across on any of these challenge runs, just because it can hit hard and it can also tank hits. In the end, we have to resort to headbutting it because we ran out of Mud Slaps, but we do eventually knock it out after a bit of a war of attrition, and we get the badge in a time of 50 minutes and 3 seconds. 7 badges down, it's time to do a little bit of housekeeping. The first thing we're going to do is fly over to Violet City, where we are going to pick up our next rare candy. This one is sitting just outside of the Sprout Tower, and we were not going to be able to complete the Sprout Tower earlier, so we'll do that while we're here. So with the Flash HM in hand, we can move on to Goldenrod, where we have the Rocket Takeover, but first we're going to do a little bit of shopping. We'll get the Return TM, and then we'll head south towards our next rare candy. Got to make sure to put on a repel though, because the amount of times I've lost time on that little patch of water is unbelievable. We'll get the rare candy, and we'll also bust into the secret hideout of these 3 sisters. These 3 cool trainers all run water types, which could be a little bit of an issue for Stampy, but we are level 40 and they are level 28, and Headbutt is making light work of this cloister. It's just 3 shots to finish the final cool trainer, and we get the Soft Sand. That of course will give us a 10% buff to our ground type moves. And now we can move on to our 4th rival battle. He leads with Golbat, and this is a perfect opportunity to test out the Defense Curl rollout strategy. We knock it out in one shot, and out comes Meganium. Meganium's got a bit of bulk behind it and ends up poisoning us, but we knock it out in just 2 shots. We're super effective against the Sneasel and knock it out, and here comes Magnemite. Magnemite resists it, but we knock it out in one shot, and the final rollout takes care of Haunter, and that was a very easy Rival 4. And that means we can move on to the very top of the radio tower. We defeat all the Team Rockets there, and they won't be pestering us at all for the rest of this run. On at 2. After getting the clear bell from the director of the radio tower, we can move on and have a little chat with Mary. She gives us a pink bow, that will give us a 10% boost to our normal type moves, and we will also pick up the radio card. That will let us wake up the sleepy bear over in Kanto. We'll pick up HMO7, which is Waterfall, and now we can move on to our 8th and final Jotonian gym. This is Claire, the Dragon type leader, and she leads with Dragonair. We start the defense curl and then we get to rolling out. Of course, Dragonair has Surf and that deals a little bit of damage, but it's still just 2 shots and we are very comfortably in the yellow. We take care of her second Dragonair and here comes Kingdra. Unfortunately, we miss our rollout, so we're going to have to take a reset. We'll try again with a similar strategy, but this time we'll forego the defense curl. I think rollout on its own should be enough to knock it out. We're on 79 HP as Dragonair number 2 comes out. Ice Beam hits us and takes us down to 32 HP as she sends out Kingdra. Rollout hits this time and it's just one final Dragonair left to go. We hit it with the rollouts, we knock it out, and we get Claire's badge. Of course, she has a little whinge, so it's a time of 1 hour, 7 minutes and 9 seconds for the 8th badge. And with that, we can make our way towards the league. There are a couple of bits we need to pick up before going into the league. First of all, we're going to pick up the rare candy, and secondly, we're going to battle Cool Trainer Blake. We are currently level 48, and at level 49 we learn what will be our Donphan's best move for this entire run. It's Earthquake, which we could learn from TM just a few meters down the road, but we're already at level 49, so we might as well take advantage of that. Unfortunately, we can't use the Execute there to test it out, but with that we can make our way into Victory Road. We'll pick up the second Earthquake TM just to give us some flexibility in our learn set. And now it's time to take on the rival for one final battle. This is Rival 5 and he will lead this time with his Sneasel. He can never quite decide on who to lead with, but I'm not going to complain. We knock it out in one shot and here comes Meganium. We use Earthquake against Meganium, which was a bit of a misplay, and we get critical hit Razor Leaf for our sins. We decide to use Headbutt to take it out in 2 shots though. We headbutt the Golbat because of course Golbat is immune to Earthquake and that's just a couple of hits to knock it out. Here comes Kadabra and we swap back to Earthquake. We knock it out in 1 shot, we do exactly the same on the Haunter, and his final Pokemon is Magneton. That's 4 times weak to our Earthquake, meaning it's base 600 power, and that is enough to knock any Pokemon out, I reckon. But now that we're in the league, we'll heal up whether we need it or not, and we'll say thank you to our HM friends. So it's a very big thank you to Kenya, to Abra, to Psyduck, and to Paris. You've all been a great help in the Johto region. Get some well-deserved rest, but it is currently Donphan's time to shine. We'll pick up our 4 full restores, and now let's take a little look at our stats before we enter into the league. We've reached the league at level 52 and we have 186 HP. In terms of our moves, we have Earthquake, Defense Curl, Rollout and Headbutt. We're holding the Quick Claw. We have 163 in attack, 161 in defense, 99 in the specials and 89 in speed. So overall we have very good stats, and let's see how we get on with our first league member. This is Will, Mr. Saint Germain himself. He's a Psychic type specialist who leads with Xatu. We use Rollout against the Xatu, but we don't one-shot it and we get confused. That could be the undoing of our battles against Will. We are confused and hurt ourselves in confusion against the Jinx. We get hit 5 times by Double Slap and hurt ourselves once more. Jinx hits 3 further times as we hit for a 3rd time in a row. Ice Punch hits us and takes us down to 24, we don't Oko the Jinx and we get knocked out. Let's try that again, shall we? Hopefully this time the confusion luck will be slightly better. We're confused but hit through the Xatu to take it down in 2 shots, and we're back onto that pesky Jinx. We hit it first time though, and that's a guaranteed knockout. Here comes Executor, we're confused but we hit through it once more to knock it out in 1 shot, and here comes the Slowbro. We break out of confusion and one-shot that as well, and that just leaves the final Xatu. We start the rollout once more, we hit twice in a row, and that is Will all done and dusted. Time of 1 hour, 14 minutes and 25 seconds. Up next on the chopping block is Koga. But before we battle him, we are finally going to get rid of Headbutt. I'm relenting and teaching Return. Return is going to be much more powerful than Headbutt at this point in the game, and we do need a little bit more coverage from normal type moves. Will leads with Ariados, and of course Earthquake is going to be neutral against Ariados because Bug resists the ground type moves, but we still knock it out in one shot. We do exactly the same against the Venomoth and grow up to level 54. Here comes the Fortress. Fortress uses Spikes, which is useless against us as we knock it out, and the next Pokemon is Crobat. I was considering using Rollouts, but then I remembered it'd probably double team, so Return would be a lot more reliable. We get Toxics and we miss our return, but we hit it on the second attempt and we're on to his final Muck. Muck goes down straight away with a critical hit Earthquake, and that's Koga all done and dusted, time of 1:15:23. Up next is Bruno, the fighting type specialist, who will lead with Hitmontop. We use Earthquake against the Hitmontop and we don't even need to use the Dig Strat. It goes down straight away, as does Hitmonchan, and here comes Legs the Hitmonlee. Hitmonlee goes down in one shot as well. The next Pokemon up on the chopping block is Machamp. Machamp also gets knocked out in one hit, and that just leaves Onix. Onix is weak to Earthquake, so it's a sweep with Earthquake, and we've defeated Bruno in just 34 seconds. Here comes Karen. Karen can be the undoing of many quick runs because of that pesky Umbreon. We get Sand attacked as normal and we knock it out in 2 hits. Here comes Vileplume, and our huge attack combined with Stab Earthquake is really paying dividends here. We knock it out in one shot, we one-shot the Murkrow with Return, and now it's just 2 Pokemon weak to ground type moves. We take care of the Gengar in one hit. Flamethrower hits us for a lot of damage because of a critical hit. We don't get burnt though, and we knock out the Houndoom straight away to defeat Karen on our first time, and it's now time for Lance, the liar with the flyers. It's his time to show us what he's got. He leads with Gyarados, so we set up a defense curl as he starts to rain dance. We quick claw rollouts, but we don't OHKO it, and we get a lot of damage from a couple of surfs. We're already down to 10 HP as our rollout misses, and we're on to Dragonite number 1. Dragonite number 1 gets knocked out straight away, and we move on to Dragonite number 2. Once again we outspeed and knock it out straight away, and here comes Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl's nippy and knocks us out with Wing Attack. Let's try again. I think we just got a little bit unlucky on that attempt, so we'll do the exact same strategy once more. We defense curl into rollout, and this time he uses Rain Dance on the second turn. That means we are in much better stead to knock out the Gyarados, and we're back onto the Dragonites. We know that's an easy one-shot with our boosted rollouts, and Dragonite number 2 comes out, but we miss our rollout. It gets locked into Hyper Beam, which means it has to recharge, and we're on 88 health for the Aerodactyl. Our Quick Claw activates and knocks it out in one shot, and that just leaves 2 Pokemon weak to Rock-type moves. We knock out the Charizard in one shot, final Dragonite comes out, and we miss our rollout once more. We still do well over half damage as it locks itself into Outrage. We hit it on the second turn to defeat Lance with 33 HP remaining in a time of 1:18:03, and our league time is 1 hour, 18 minutes and 21 seconds. Don't go away because Kanto is next. And we're back where it all began, in Professor Elm's laboratory. He's got the SS tickets and he's also got a Master Ball for us, and now it's time to retrieve our HM friends. We're going to say a very warm welcome back to the band. We've got Kenya, Abra, Psyduck and Paris. They've all had a lovely bit of rest while we were doing the league, and they're chomping at the bits to help us out even more. So the first thing we're going to do is go into Mount Malta and pick up a couple of bits. We're going to pick up the rare candy from this part of Mount Malta, and we're also going to pick up the Defense Curl TM. We do have it on our learn set right now, but it's always very handy to have. The last thing we need to pick up is a rare candy from the Whirl Islands, and with a hop, skip and a jump, we are into Kanto. And the first thing we do in Kanto is the last thing we do in Johto. We've got to pick up another rare candy, this time from the chairman of the Pokemon fan club. So we pick that up and cycle over to Celadon City. We have a little chat with the TV and then realise it's the green-haired man we should be talking to, and he's going to give us Curse. Curse will allow our Donphan to swear and reduce its speed in return for 1 attack and 1 defense buff. And with all that done, we can take on our 9th gym leader. This is Erica. She is a grass type specialist, but for some reason she didn't use a grass move there. Tangle used Bind, and that was really fortuitous for us because that means we're still well in the green as we are onto her Victory Bell. We knock it out in one shot and she's only got 1 Pokemon left. Blossom's not going to put up any fight whatsoever. We critical hit it, and we get the Rainbow Badge in a time of 1 hour, 23 minutes and 29 seconds. Misty's Cascade Badge is next, and why not do the 2 gyms which we're weak to as the very first 2 gyms in Kanto? We want to flex on all these gym leaders, so we take care of her Golduck. Quagsire uses Amnesia, but that's neither use nor ornament to it, and we are on to the Lapras. I use Earthquake to one-shot the Lapras, grow to level 61, and her final Pokemon is Starmie. Starmie's Surf doesn't hit hard at all, we knock it out, and we've defeated Misty in a time of 1 hour, 27 minutes, and 26 seconds. While we're on a roll, quite literally in some cases, we might as well take on Sabrina. We take care of her Espeon with one single return, and here comes Mr. Mime. We're saving our Earthquake PP for the next gym battle, so it's going to be 3 returns, getting hit by Psychic en route, and we defeat her very quickly indeed. 1 hour, 28 minutes and 30 seconds for Sabrina. Let's now move on to Lieutenant Surge, our 4th Cantonian gym in a row. Lieutenant Surge leads with a Raichu, which is perfect for us because it can only hit us with Quick Attack. We knock it out in a single Earthquake, and here comes Electrode. Electrode's double team doesn't work for us, and we knock it out in one shot, so he sends out Magneton. Magneton really stood no chance with a critical hit Earthquake there, and we are on to Electabuzz. Electabuzz gets knocked out in one Earthquake as well. The final Pokemon is another Electrode. We hit through double team once more, and we've defeated Surge in a time of 1 hour, 29 minutes and 48 seconds. Now I'm very curious, how much damage would a critical hit Earthquake do? In terms of base power against a Magneton, it's got to be a huge amount of damage, far too much for my brain to handle, maybe like 1600 or something. It's probably not that high, please do let me know. You know me and mental maths on the fly, it's not my forte. Well, I've been yakking on though, we've caught the Snorlax and we've taken its leftovers and we've given them to Donphan, and they'll come in very handy for our next gym. This is Brock, the rock type specialist, and he leads with a Graveler. I felt so confident with this gym battle that I didn't even bother to heal. We take care of his Graveler in one shot. Omastar goes down straight away in one hit as well, so he sends out Kabutops. Kabutops can't even get a word in edgeways and gets knocked out before it gets a chance to move, as does his Rhyhorn, and the final Pokemon is Onix. Onix is very weak, all things considered. It gets knocked out, we're almost at full HP when we defeat Brock, and we get our 13th badge in a time of 1 hour, 31 minutes and 18 seconds. We have a little break to visit Cinnabar Islands, or the remnants thereof, and have a little chat with Blue. He tells us all about the volcano that's exploded. We get our penultimate rare candy, and we sail across the open seas towards Blaine. Blaine has resettled in the Seafoam Islands, but unfortunately for him, he's a fire-type leader, and we have a ground-type Pokemon with Earthquake. I think this is what we call a foregone conclusion. Magcargo doesn't put up any resistance, neither does the Bumhead Fireduck, and the last hope for him is Rapidash. We outspeed it, we knock it out, and we've defeated Blaine in a time of 1 hour, 32 minutes and 41 seconds. The penultimate gym leader is Janine. Now we're not saving the best to last in this instance because Janine isn't that good. She's only level 36, but our rollout didn't OHKO the Crobat. However, it does OHKO the Ariados as we move on to Venomoth. Venomoth's also weak to rock-type moves, so it goes down in one. Here comes the first Weezing, and it Toxics us because we miss our rollout. However, that means we can swap to Earthquake for the pair of Weezing, knock them both out, and defeat Janine in a time of 1 hour, 33 minutes and 30 seconds on the nose. 15 of our 16 badges are in our bag now, and before we take on Blue, we're going to replace Defense Curl with Curse. I think at this point in the run, Curse will be the better option. It gives us a nice little buff to our attack and boosts our defense at the same time, and rollout building up is still going to be a very strong move. So we're going to take on Blue, and his first Pokemon is Pidgeot. So we swear at it, and it uses Mirror Move and swears right back at us. I'm so glad that this doesn't have voice acting, because I think the YouTube gods would have thrown a hissy fit. But after we've cursed enough, we start using rollout and we knock out the Pidgeot in 2 shots, and here comes Gyarados. Gyarados' Hydro Pump hits for a lot of damage, but rollout hits for even bigger damage back at it, and we are on to Exeggutor. Exeggutor takes in Sunlight, and that gives us an opportunity to knock it out before it uses Solar Beam, and Alakazam is next up on the chopping block. We miss our rollout, and it uses Reflect, so that means its defense has been buffed. However, with all our curses, that doesn't matter. We knock it out in one and get hit by Flamethrower, however it doesn't burn, so we can finish it off. We grow to level 65 and get back almost into the yellow. We outspeed the Rhydon. Rhydon is no match for our Stampy, and we knock out his final Pokemon to get the Earth Badge, our final badge, in a time of 1 hour, 35 minutes and 7 seconds. Now it's all come down to this. We're going to tell Professor Oak that we have all 16 badges in our hand, and he will let us into Mount Silver, where the big final boss is waiting for us. It's time to take on Red. And very quickly before we take him on, I want to ask you, how fast do you think we're going to get to full completion? Do you think we're going to stay under the 2 hours, maybe under 1 hour 45, or are we going to struggle? There's only one way to find out, and that is to go into Mount Silver and take him on. It's our final challenge of the game. This is Red, who leads with Pikachu. Pikachu will outspeed us, however Pikachu doesn't really have anything at all that can hit us. The only thing he can do is quick attack, and a combination of our curse and leftovers means we are not going to be hit very hard at all. In fact, by the final curse we have gone straight back up to full HP. We start rolling out and we knock it out in one shot. We're on full HP for the Venusaur as it takes in sunlight, but we have a little bit of a disaster. We don't knock it out and Solar Beam knocks us out straight away. Let's try again. Unfortunately, my reset counter didn't actually activate, so that reset number should actually be 10. Sometimes it just doesn't activate. I press the button and it does nothing. Hopefully it doesn't happen in the future, although I do actually think we might have had one extra reset count earlier on. I'm sure somebody will let me know. In the meantime though, we finished setting up against the Pikachu, and this time we go for Earthquake. I think Earthquake is going to be more reliable than Rollouts because it's 100% accurate. We Earthquake against the Venusaur, and in this instance we knock it out straight away. Our 6 curses are doing so much damage. We use Earthquake against the Blastoise as it rain dances, and we knock it out in one shot. Here comes Espeon. Espeon uses Reflect, but even a Reflect isn't enough to stop our Stampy's rampage. Snorlax is the big question, and we knock it out in one critical hit. His final Pokemon is Charizard. Instead of relying on rollouts, we go straight for return. We don't quite knock it out because of the Reflect. Flamethrower hits us for a critical hit, but it's a foregone conclusion. We have defeated Red in a time of 1 hour, 38 minutes and 32 seconds. A very, very respectable 6th place on our leaderboard. That shoves Miltank down to 7th, Electabuzz down to 10th, and on the second page we now have Mr. Mime in 11th place. And of course poor Magcargo is still down in 31st place. Will we ever have a Pokemon that's slower than Magcargo? I reckon it'll happen, but not for a while. But with that, we are done. So I'm going to say thank you all so much for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure to be back on Pokemon Crystal. If you've enjoyed this video, please do leave a like. If you've really had fun, please do consider subscribing. I have a Patreon at patreon.com/TraderSquidgy. Follow me on Twitter, the same username, and I will see you all very, very soon.